Welcome to my third class about regression. This class is about locally weighted regression methods. In the previous class, we have seen how linear least squares work. Okay, we have seen that we can find a linear model to approximate some close to linear function. Now we are asking ourselves how we can approximate a nonlinear function. And as I said in the previous class, there are two methods. One which is based on locally weighted regression. This is the one we see today, and the next will be using radial basis function networks. That's this family. Okay, so let's focus on that. First, let's understand the first principles. So previously we have seen that given these data points, the least squares methods will provide this linear model, which is not a very accurate approximation of those data points. Okay. Now let's see what we can do with weighted least squares. The general idea is to focus on this part of the function, okay, and to give more weights to the center of this part. Okay, so we have a large weight here and smaller weights when we go away from the center. And if we do so, and if we multiply the residuals by a weight, this data point matters a lot, and this one a little less, and this again, and we don't care much about those which are far away from the center. Okay, so we'll get a linear model which is very different from the one we get here. And now with locally weighted least squares, what we do is that we split the function domain into some linear parts, one here, and one here. And with weighted least squares, we obtain one model for each subpart. So one model here, one model here, one model here. And you can see, of course, that this approximation is much more accurate than this one. That's the idea of locally weighted regression. You will split your nonlinear function into a set of linear functions that are close to the function you want to approximate. Okay, and the idea is that the importance of data points, the closer you are to the center, is represented by a Gaussian function, which is maximal at the center of the Gaussian, and lower and lower when you go away from the maximum. And these ideas are quite old, in fact. So how does it work in more details? Okay, let's consider that you want to approximate that complicated function along one cut, which is the green line that you can see here. And you can find the green line again here. So you want to split the domain of this green line into, that particular case, into three domains, each represented by a multivariate Gaussian function, one here, and one here. Okay. And then you will have to determine what is the most important domain for a given data point along your green line. And this is represented here. So if your x-axis comes from here to there, okay, first you are in the red region, that you can see here, then you are in the blue region here, and finally you are in the black region corresponding to there, okay, and you can see that here there is a lot of overlap between the blue and the black region along the green line, okay. That's the importance of being in that particular domain given your x-axis. Okay, that's the importance. And now what I represent here is the relative importance. So here you can see that in the beginning you are completely in the red area. So the relative importance is 1 in the beginning and goes down to 0 as we move from the red line to the blue line. And you can see that the importance is moving from the red region to the blue region. And in the blue and black, you can see that both are important. So the relative importance does not go to 1 in that particular area. Okay. So from one side, I determine the relative importance of being in the different domains that are represented here. And from the other side, for each of these domains, I will have to determine a linear model of the function in that particular domain. And for doing so, I'm just using the standard least squares with a weight, okay, and this gives me these models. And finally, I will multiply using these models by the relative importance. And as you can see, in the very beginning, this is only the red line which is important, so I am following the red line. Then I'm moving from the red line to the blue line because the importance is moving from the red domain to the blue domain. So I'm moving here, and then I am following the model of the blue domain, and finally I am going from the model of the blue domain to the black domain with some combination, as you can see here. And what's interesting is that the line you get here, the green line you get it, closely corresponds to the green line you get it here. So this is a good nonlinear approximation of the nonlinear function that you have here. Okay, so that's the general idea. Now let's see better how we can do this with some formula in mathematics. So, as I said, each receptive field or domain is defined as a Gaussian, so that's a Gaussian function. Okay, so these functions are represented with the center of the Gaussian and some covariance matrix sigma. Okay, and you can see that's the formula corresponding to the Gaussian with these parameters. And in each of these domains, or this receptive field, you have a local linear model whose formula is here. And finally, as I said, you multiply the linear model with the relative importance of the Gaussian, so that's the local Gaussian divided by the sum over all Gaussians here. And that gives you the output in any point given the input x that you are traveling through. Okay, and that's the formula to perform locally locally weighted regression. So that's the standard LWR algorithm. Now let's move to something which is more sophisticated, which is called LWPR, for locally weighted projection regression. So the general idea is that you are doing exactly the same as in locally weighted regression, but for computing the linear model, if you have many dimensions, it often happens that some of the dimensions are not important to determine the local model. So you project into a smaller set of coordinates so that you ignore the dimensions that are not important. By doing so, you can have linear models in very, very large dimensions. And in fact, locally weighted projection regression has been used, for instance, for estimating the dynamics models of humanoid robots in 90 dimensions, which is huge. Okay. So it allows you to perform nonlinear function approximation in very large spaces. Okay. And a particularity of locally weighted projection regression is that when you are working in large spaces, you cannot put the domains by hand one by one. So it has a mechanism to add new domains or new receptive fields around non-covered data points. But one difficulty is that it cannot remove those domains, so it happens that you get stuck with a non-efficient representation if you have put domains in an area where there are too many of them. So this algorithm is quite good at approximating some dynamics or kinematics model of a robot along a trajectory of a movement, because you will have some receptive field along that particular movement, and then you project a large size model into a smaller domain, and you get some accurate representation of your model. Okay, I won't go into the detail, but if you want to know more, you have to look at papers about estimating models with regression in robotics in particular. Now let's have a look at XCSF, which is quite similar to LWPR, but coming from a very different source of inspiration. So the idea is that XCSF is a particular kind of learning classifier system, which are rule-based system where you have a prediction part and a condition part. So the condition corresponds to where is your Gaussian, and the prediction corresponds to the linear model. Okay. And in fact, what XCSF does is that it covers the domain of the function with Gaussian models that are added and removed by a genetic algorithm. So if some local model is good, it will stay there, and if a local model is not good, it will be removed by the genetic algorithm and replaced by newer and better local models. So in a sense, XCSF is more adaptive than LWPR because it can remove receptive field and try to maximize the generality of the receptive field by removing the small ones. Okay. So in particular, there is a condensation mechanism that allows you to reduce the population of receptive fields so that you get a better generalization. You are able to approximate your function with fewer receptive fields, so you generalize better. Okay. And XeSF also benefits from a very specific ID that in fact could be transposed to other regression algorithms, which had in fact they distinguish two different spaces: the space where you have your linear model and the space where you have your Gaussian functions. So the first is the prediction space and the second is the condition space. And if, for instance, you consider the forward kinematics or the forward dynamics of a robot, you can see that there is some structure in the function that relates, for instance, the velocity in task space to the velocity in joint space. In fact, the velocity in task space corresponds to a linear transformation of the velocity in the joint space. So with XeSF, you can benefit from the structure. You can say that your condition space will be based on the position of the joints, okay, and the linear model will be between the velocity in task space and the velocity in joint space. So you distinguish two spaces. And with LWPR, in fact, you would have just one space, which would be the combination of the position and the velocity. So you would have this equation. And for instance, if your robot has 30 degrees of freedom, then this would be a 60-dimensional vector. Okay. Whereas with XeSF, you can distinguish the two. Okay, so here you have 30 dimensions and here you have 30 dimensions. So this model is much smaller than this one, so it's easier to approximate it. That's the benefit of using XeSF for modeling robots. Finally, a different algorithm is Gaussian mixture regression. So that's the idea of using Gaussian models where you have an approximation of the average, which is very similar to what is done with LWPR or XeSF, but you also have an approximation of the variance. And having this approximation of the variance allows you to determine where your model is not so accurate. So in Gaussian mixture regression, instead of modeling a function relating the input x to the output y, you model the manifold that relates x to y directly. So it's not a function, it's richer than that. And you have a model which is richer, so it allows you to approximate better models, but you have more parameters, so it's more difficult to tune. Okay, but that's the richest representation among the family of locally weighted regression methods. So if we want to summarize, in fact, if we take the different algorithms, the parameters correspond to the number of receptive fields, the position of the receptive field, and the size of the receptive field. And with the standard locally weighted regression algorithm, all this is fixed by hand, so that's rather an easy algorithm, and you have to determine those parameters by yourself. Whereas in LWPR, the number of receptive fields is growing, and the position is fixed, but the size is adaptive, etc., etc. And the more it is adaptive, the less you need to tune the things by hand, but you also need some hyperparameters. So finally, using these algorithms is in general easier when you have a simple problem you want to model. So if you don't need a lot of flexibility, probably what you need to use is just the locally weighted regression algorithm itself. If you need a lot of flexibility and you don't have any idea of how to set your parameters, maybe you should move towards something which is more adaptive. And that's it for that particular class about regression, which was a little oriented towards learning model for robots, and you will see why in the next class. Thank you for listening.